Paula, for those of you who don't know me.
And I'm Chad Hughes. Nice to meet you.
We want to welcome you guys tonight and just thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to honor our inductees. We are very proud of them. We're very humbled by some of the stories that we've read. So thank you again very much, and I'll turn it over to Chad.
We're going to rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just to do a really quick introduction here of our inductees tonight, for those of you who don't know, we have Shannon Brown. If you'll stand, please, so everyone can see you. Thank you. Amanda Overly Dunlap. Jennifer Harris Whitehead. Brad Smith. Helser, Walter Paxton, and the family representing Harry Heist this evening. Mike Swaney, one of our inductees, is unable to attend tonight as he is in Cleveland Clinic, so keep him in your thoughts and prayers, please. Brian Weingarten. And Paula Riedel. Next, just to do a quick introduction of our Hall of Fame committee. I know everyone's not here, but we had Steve Kirchenfott, Marcille Coates, I know she's here. She helped check in. David Pryor, who is our school nurse. Lena Blair. Chad Hughes and myself. Angie Hoy, Keith Baumgartner, who was unable to attend this evening. He's our high school principal. He's our administrative representative for the Hall of Fame. Claire Mackey, Janelle Lang, and Jeff Austin. Just to say really quick, this group works really, really well together. We did lose a couple from the last time. We gained a couple, and it's really nice to work together. We revamped a few things. We do stuff online, and our schedules are always really busy. So we have found a way. We do things strictly by email, and when it comes time to vote, we get together in person and we vote on the nominees. So thank you to our Hall of Fame committee for all of the extra work, dedication, and time for diligently looking over these nominees. Appreciate it. Thank you again. And we want to do a quick special thank you to John Freed. I know this is in your program, but John Freed over here, he's one of our tech guys here at the school, and he has done a phenomenal job with restructuring a little bit of the things that we could do to update and stay with the times with the Hall of Fame. And our plan is to have it up and running this week for 2026. So keep that in mind. Please get some nominations in. There's a lot of very deserving people out there. Also, Karen Joseph, thank you again for playing for us this evening. I want to especially thank Bobby Dotson for taking the time to be here this evening, and he will talk to you later on this evening about himself and the program and just some different things so you get to know him as our new director of bands here at Allen East. I want to extremely thank Chad. Chad is amazing. He graduated with our son Derek in 2006, and Chad and I have been working on different projects together since he was probably sophomore. Yeah, 4-H, little. But it's just a joy when you have a creative eye. Not everyone sees things the same way you do, and it's good to have someone that has OCD with you. And just, I don't know, you're just an old soul. I can stop now, but thank you, Chad, for everything that you do and what you bring to this community. I also want to thank Jim and Lena Blair for the extra work you did today, helping us decorate, and Jim carrying in plants, and rain was coming. But thank you for the time too, Lena, that you put into this Hall of Fame. I know you do. The things you do all comes from your heart, and you have that teacher heart. So thank you so much. I'm sure I'll miss somebody, but I really want to thank Stites Grocery, Tim and Kim and his crew that put on the meal for us every year. Just thank you so much. They have delicious food and they're about ready for us. So notice the sponsors on the back of your program. Please take note of that, because this organization is strictly self-funding. The school doesn't give us any money at all to put this on. So it comes from the outside sponsors. If any one of you feel led to donate to help out the Hall of Fame, to build up a little bit, so we don't have to really push hard when it's that time, you can mail a check or come in to the Board of Education office here at the school and do that with Hall of Fame on your memo line. But we want to really thank those sponsors, so please do so as you see them out and about. Thank them for what they do for this community. That's pretty much all I've got. We're good with the photo. Okay, so they've got the food ready. We're going to turn it over now to Sandy to do a prayer for us.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you tonight for all the inductees that are here and all the family and their friends that are here to support them on this special evening, and the ones that are no longer with us as well, Lord. We just thank you and praise you for the life and the legacy that they have bestowed on us. And we just praise you for all the things you've done in our lives and all the things you continue to do on a daily basis. We just praise you, we love you, and bless the hands that prepare the food, and blessings to the food. In Jesus' name, amen.
Tim, are we ready to go? I think so. Okay. Chad will release your tables, so enjoy your food. Okay, we're going to get started. If you are still eating, feel free to do that. As long as there's food over there, help yourself. I want to take this time right now to introduce Bobby Dodson to you. Bobby is a 2014 graduate of Allen East High School, and he'll talk to you a little bit more about his further education, but it is a great pleasure to introduce to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bobby Dodson. For those of you that don't know me, as Carla had mentioned, I graduated from here in 2014. I was one of the 6 valedictorians of my class. When I was in high school, I had a really good experience in the brass and in the band program, and something probably in the middle of my sophomore year, I had this inkling. I thought, you know what? I think it'd be cool to be a band director myself, because I had such a good experience myself going through a band program. So I wanted to do that, and after I graduated from here, I went off to Ohio State Lima campus and got my gen eds out of the way, and I remained here as a just a brass assistant in the summer and during the fall for the football season for 2 years. And right as the 2-year mark was ending, that's when I had to go to further my education because I couldn't do any more at OSU Lima. So I either had to go to OSU main campus or find a different school. Well, I found another school that was closer, and I ended up at Ohio Northern University. That was when the real challenge began, I guess we would say. Because up until that time, I had just been doing gen eds and that, and I thought, oh, I know music, and I know band, and all this and that, and when I stepped foot into Ohio Northern, I had a lot to learn. And I'll just leave it at that. It was a struggle for me when I first got in there, and I really had to buckle down and put my nose to the grindstone, rather. And I came out on the other side. It was a long 4.5 years of college altogether. I finished up in the fall of 2019, and at that time I had just gotten my sub license, and I thought, well, I'll sub at the end of the school year here, and then going into the next year, I'll hopefully land a job. Right after I had graduated, I waited about a month, and Ada Schools called me, and they wanted me to fill in as their long-term sub band director at the time. Something had happened to their band director. I don't know all the details. I got 2 weeks into that, and then schools closed because this wonderful thing called COVID-19 had reared its ugly head. So that being the case, I couldn't do anything full-time there because I didn't have enough time in. I was shy by 1 week. So I just sat and tried to figure out what I was going to do. Ultimately, my goal was to end up back here at some point in time, but that was like a far, far goal. Because when I graduated, there was already somebody here, and then after I graduated, there was another person here, and I thought, well, maybe I'll get there eventually. So we're going through, it's 2020 now, school is back open a little bit. Interviews are starting to come around. Tons of interviews I had, nothing. No luck. I'd make it to the second round of interviews. Oh, you're doing real good, and I'd get right there, I'd get ever so close. Nothing. I'd always lose out to somebody, and that happened to me quite a bit, and that weighed on me quite a bit, and I was almost ready to branch out even further. I thought, well, after this next one, I'll go to Columbus, or I'll go to Cincinnati, or wherever. Well, I had an interview in Arlington over the summer, and things went really well there, and I had actually accepted the position there. About 2 weeks in, I hadn't signed any contract or anything. About 2 weeks in, Rebecca Titus had called me and said, hey, I know you just accepted the job at Arlington, but let me put this bug in your ear. I have to leave Allen East. And she said, I know I don't know you very well, but there's been a lot of talks over the years about you, and I just had this feeling deep down that you might be the guy for the job. So we talked for a little bit. My jaw hit the floor a couple of times during that conversation because I just couldn't believe it. So the job was posted. I called Keith Baumgartner. I said, hey, this is my situation with Arlington. I don't know if I can legally apply for this job. And he said, well, as long as you haven't signed any paperwork or anything, you're not legally bound. He said, so I can't guarantee anything other than an interview. I said, okay. So I came in for the interview. I thought it went really well. He called me a couple days later. He said, well, we'd like to have you sit down and have a talk with me and Mr. Rentschler. And I said, okay. Went in for that. They interviewed me a little bit more, and that night I got offered the job. And when they called me and offered me the job, they said, yeah, this is what's going on, and you start telling people. And this was a Wednesday, and they said, by the way, rehearsals for the brass start Monday next week. And I said, okay. So now here we are. It's a dream come true, honestly, because I never thought that A, I would end up back here, or B, that I would end up back here this soon. So as my first job, it's just really nice to be where I want to be. As far as going forward for like the band program and everything, I think that Mr. Denman and Ms. Titus have done a lot of good things, and I want to keep on that track, but I also want to inject my own stuff in there as well, because I've had a lot of experience of my own that is a little different from theirs, I'm sure. And ultimately, I just want the kids to be able to make good music and have a good time at the same time. That's all I got. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Bobby. Just one thing to teach the younger ones, that dreams really do come true. Just a lot of hard work and determination. So now we're going to move on with the Hall of Fame. And we want to kind of keep things moving here if we can. And I was going to introduce each person that was going to introduce the inductee, the one that they nominated. But what I'm going to do is just let you know who that is, and then we'll follow through. We'll try to move that pretty quick. So the first one up tonight is Harry Heist. And I believe Perry is going to do the speaking on Harry's behalf and accept the award posthumously for Harry.
Good evening, everyone. Like Carla said, my name is Perry Heist. My father was Harry Heist, and he passed away last year. And I know he would have been tickled pink to know what the nominating committee and everybody thought, to give him. He wasn't a man of great accolade for himself, but again, he would have been just tickled pink to know that everybody felt that way about him. I'd like to start off by congratulating all the other inductees. All very deserving, individuals, and we're happy that you are albums of Allen East. I'd like to introduce Harry's family to start with. His wife, my mother Diane, is in the back. My sister Melissa, who by the way is also in the Hall of Fame. She was in the very first inducted class of the Allen East Hall of Fame. My wife Kelly's back there. My son Isaac, his wife Becky, and their little one Addie. My daughter Kelsey, who's a teacher here at Allen East, her husband Cody, and they have a little one, her name is Riley. And although she's passed on, I'm certain she's here with us tonight, my sister Jennifer. I want to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for all their work on the selections. Again, my father would have said, why me? But the people on the committee, I'm sure, all had dealings with my father over the years, and they know why. It would have been hard to convince him of the reasons why, but I just want to thank them for all their hard work on it and for, making him your nomination or your selection. My father started off working at a very young age. He was 16. He went to work at Schiller Globe building school buses there in Lima. That was 1951. When he turned 18, he went into the service, into the Army for 3 years, and after he spent those 3 years serving his country, he returned to Schiller Globe. It was Schiller Globe at the end, and worked another 26 years until that plant abruptly closed down and he was out of a job. And if all of you remember, back in the late 70s, early 80s, jobs were kind of hard to come by back then. So, he's 45 years old and had 3 kids. We had just moved to Lafayette a few years before. And at that time, the county and the state sent those fellows to Apollo for some further education, where he earned his GED and boiler operator's license. And since we lived in Lafayette, he made his way to Allen East School and was hired as a custodian in 1979. The administration for Allen East quickly realized his 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 wealth of knowledge and his lifetime of experience that he had accumulated, even in just his 45 years of his life. And after the first year of being a custodian, they made him the maintenance and transportation supervisor. And then he got to spend the next 18 years sharing all that experience and all that knowledge with the staff and the students for Allen East. And over that time, he developed a special love for the school, its staff, and especially the students. He loved all the kids at Allen East in his time here. It was a short time, 18 years. Some people work here 30 years, 40 years, and he was here a shorter time than most, 18 years. But over that time, he learned to love all the kids. Every kid that walked the hall in Allen East was subject to a special attention that he would pay to them. He could often be found reading to a kindergarten class, talking to kids in the library, serving lunch in the cafeteria. He definitely had a soft spot for kids, especially those kids that needed a friend, or those that didn't get much attention at home, or kids that just didn't seem to have a place to fit in. He was a friend to all those kids. He was a friend to all kids, but he had a special spot for maybe more underprivileged individuals. He would sit and listen to kids tell them about their weekend, their ball games, their band shows, plays, etc. He would sit and listen to all those stories patiently, and just taking in what those kids would give him and returning that, reciprocating it, how he felt about all those individuals. It all mattered to him. Every single kid mattered to Harry. Every one, no matter what. So, no matter their station in life, he just loved all the kids. After he retired from Allen East, he and I would regularly go to breakfast on Saturday mornings or run errands for my mom, or we'd end up at the lumber yard for a fix-it project at one of our homes. Very often we would run across some of these students, and they would always recognize Harry and stop and ask how he was doing, and the boys would shake his hand, and the girls would give him a hug and maybe a kiss, and tell him how he was the one person that they missed the most once they graduated and left school behind. They left Allen East. He was the one person that they remembered the most from their school days. And I heard many of them tell him that he was like a second father to them. And many others were like the first father, a father they had never had. Just because he paid attention to some of those kids. He really enjoyed listening to the kids. When that person would move on, and he would often say to me, man, I wish I could remember that kid's name. And I would always tell him, Pop, it doesn't matter that you don't remember their name. What matters is they remember your name. And they remember all the time and the attention that you paid to them. They remembered that enough to know who you were and keep you in their memories long after they left the halls of Allen East School. Of course, being his son, I knew the reason why so many people were drawn to him. He was simply someone who had a huge heart and shared it with everyone that would let him do so. When I think of my father, I'm reminded of a line in a movie. Has everyone seen The Wizard of Oz? Anybody who hasn't seen The Wizard of Oz? I find that hard to believe. If you have, then you know the wizard promises to grant wishes to Dorothy and her friends, and if they were to return to the Emerald City with the broomstick that belonged to the Wicked Witch of the West. And after accomplishing this task, the wizard indeed goes about granting their wishes. And as you know, the Tin Man had asked for a heart. And upon presenting the Tin Man with his token of a heart, the wizard said to the Tin Woodman, remember, my sentimental friend, that a heart isn't judged by how much you love, but how much you are loved by others. And if the size of a man's heart is truly measured by this, I believe my father may have had one of the biggest hearts in the world, because he was loved by many. As many of you know, I had the pleasure of working with my father alongside here at Allen East for the last few years of his time here. And since that time, I've talked to many, many people and heard a myriad of stories about their time and experience with him. But there's one story that I personally experienced with him, and I want to share it with you here this evening. And if there are any in this room that have never met my father, this story will explain exactly what kind of man he was and how much he meant to Allen East. He and I were walking down the hallway in the elementary, in the old building in Lafayette one day, and we passed by the restrooms. And there was a little tiny fella standing in the doorway looking very lost and afraid. And right away my dad knew. And we stopped, and my dad knelt down to his level. And before my dad could even say what was wrong, the little fella fell into his arms sobbing that he didn't know which way to go. So after calming him down a little bit and wiping away some tears, we discovered that he was in kindergarten. And apparently his class had a bathroom break, and he didn't catch up to him on the way back to class. So we walked down the hallway and make it to their room and knock on the door, and surprisingly the first door we knocked on, that was his classroom. And the teacher came to the door, and she was so thankful for us to have retrieved this guy, and we told her that, my father said, hey, he just lost his way from the bathroom, and we brought him back there. On the way back, as we were walking down to the room, the little boy instinctively reached up and just took my father's hand. My dad didn't know who this little kid was. We never did know his name. I doubt my father had any interaction with him ever, probably the rest of the time. But the teacher, again, she thanked us, and my father said, you're welcome. And as we turned to go, the little boy turns to Dad, and he faced my dad, and he says, yeah, thanks, Harry, in his little voice. Again, we never knew who this kid was. I never did know who that was. And again, my dad probably never had any more interaction with him over the time that he worked here. And I've thought of those moments many times over the years. And it always amazed me. I was always marveled at the way that little kid instinctively and without pause just trusted my dad would lead him back to safety. And that's just the kind of a person my dad was, and that's kind of the way he was to everybody. So I know, again, he would be tickled pink to have this award and to know that so many people felt that way about him. So on that note, I'd like to take just one more moment and give thanks to Harry. I'd like to thank him for being a great Out employee, a great school and community leader, a great husband, father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather, and for being my own personal best friend over my life. We're going to miss him, so thank you all and good night.
Next is going to be Chad to do an introduction for our next Hall of Fame person. Thank you, Perry. That was a very nice tribute to your father.
So I have the pleasure this evening of introducing Ms. Paula Riedel. She's a 1978 graduate of Upper Sandusky Local Schools. She received her BA in Comprehensive Social Studies and Library Education Media in 1982 from Bowling Green State University and a master's degree in 1985. Paula began her career at Allen East in May of 1982, shortly before graduating from BGSU. She was a yearbook advisor for 12 years, a senior class advisor responsible for homecoming, the dance, voting on senior favorites. She was on the academic lottery, dance chaperone, ticket taker, retirement party planner. Paula did a lot around the school. How I got to know Paula is she started the graduation video project, and I worked with her several years on that because I have been the photographer, along with Carla, for the community for a long time, and somehow we get elected to these fun little projects that we get to do. So I got to work with her on making DVDs for the seniors. But where I really got to know her was when we were both assigned and decided to volunteer to be on the new building project. As many of you know, that was not the best time in the community. Some people did not think that this building needed to be here, but I remember Paula sitting on the 3rd floor of the library with a whole bunch of computers that could barely get to internet because the building was not exactly equipped for technology at that time. So she was a huge component and pusher of why we needed a new building, knowing that the students of Allen East in the future were going to need a building that was capable for the technology that we needed. Another thing that me and Paula, me being the history lover and her also being a history lover, really wanted to see happen was to make sure that the stained glass windows got brought from the old building to the new building. And I know we both fought pretty hard for that, and what was great about it was she actually got to put the stained glass windows in the media center and library that she established. So Paula, I'm gonna have you come up. Another great thing about Paula is she actually started the Hall of Fame. She is the person that's kind of responsible and the reason why this is here. So a big round of applause for Paula as she walks out. Today, Paula can be found at UNOH in the Indoor Athletic Complex, still greeting students. She also helps at our Daily Bread Soup Kitchen. She loves to volunteer. She's very active in the American Cancer Society, and I know something that she is very, very proud of is she is a breast cancer survivor. So congratulations, Paula.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedules to be here. I have always been a behind-the-scenes workhorse, never a show pony. People like me don't often get recognized, so a heartfelt thanks to Chad for nominating me, because I didn't know until just now who did. It is quite an honor to be here. Harry Heist was the first person to befriend me at Allen East in August of 1982. And years later, I organized his retirement party at the school. Harry was such a blessing to me. Apparently, I was an old kid who needed extra attention. But tonight, I wanted to tell you about how the Allen East Hall of Fame came to be. I was diagnosed with cancer September 14th, 2007. And after my first round of chemo, my mother was also diagnosed with cancer. When I returned to work in August of 2008, we had a new principal, Mr. Baumgartner, and he had created some committees for the staff and wanted some new ideas. I was on one of those committees, and I was thinking about that. So I would leave school and make the round trip to Upper Sandusky to visit my mother in the nursing home about every other day. Well, that was a lot of hours traveling on Route 30, and I just couldn't stand to spend all those hours alone on the road thinking about losing my mom. My mom was a Christian, so I knew she was going straight to heaven, but how was I going to handle the loneliness of losing my best friend? I needed something to occupy my mind with all those miles and hours on the road, and that is where I planned the Hall of Fame. I took an outline for the Hall of Fame to Mr. Baumgartner, and he was thrilled with the idea, and eventually I went and spoke to the board members. I thought, why not Allen East? Other schools had it, why not us? We now have this beautiful facility with enough room to host the event, and the board also liked the idea and approved moving forward. My mother passed in January of 2009, so instead of driving to Upper Sandusky, I had time to go visit LCC and Lima Senior and to see how they did their Hall of Fames and other area schools. I searched for plaques and trophies and flowers and paper products and food and all the other needed items to put this on. There were a lot of details to set the foundation for the Hall of Fame and for them to continue into the future. I rented tablecloths. I actually rented potted monk centerpieces from Amherst Greenhouse to save money. We did not have any sponsors. Nathan Redmond was our IT guy, and he set up the nomination form that we came up with on the website. And I would bring things like the plaques or pictures of items in and go over to Jennifer Elliott and Rhonda Zimmerly and Lois Myers, and we would
pick out the ones that we thought would work the best. And the original committee that Mr. Baumgartner had us sign up for shared their ideas and voted on the nominees. And the top 10 were inducted into the first Hall of Fame in the fall of 2010. It was a wonderful night. I was so very blessed to have been a part of it. So you are kind of all here tonight because I needed a distraction and something positive to focus on. I wish my mom could be here to see this, but since she can't, I'm very grateful to have my family here, Jess, Trey, and Ronan. They're here with me. And thank you, Paula and Chad, for keeping this going after my retirement. And the biggest thank you of all to Father God and Jesus. Without them, I would not still be here and still able to serve in my community. Team Jesus for the win. Thank you very much.
Our next Hall of Fame inductee is Mike Swaney, and like I had said before, he and his family are unable to be here. Mike Swaney is a 1972 graduate of Allen East Local School. After graduation, he was an employee of Ford Motor Company and Terry Swaney Oldsmobile. In 1984, he started his own dealership in Wapakoneta, Mike Swaney Pontiac Buick GMC. He received honors from GM celebrating 5, 10, 20, and 25 years in business. He sold many vehicles in the Allen East community and would travel from his home in Lafayette to the school or residence and pick up a car for service. He never asked anyone to do something he himself was not willing to do. And on several occasions took money out of his own pocket to help one of his employees or someone else in need. Mike was always willing to donate to a local charity in Wapakoneta, Harrod, or Lafayette. He and his wife Pam have raised 3 children, Michelle Carrion, Doug, and Brad Swaney, who attended Allen East School. When he asks you, how are you doing, it is not just a greeting. He truly cares how you are doing. Mike is a prime example of what hard work and determination can provide. So keep Mike in your prayers. Next, I'm going to have Addison Metz come up and introduce our next inductee.
I would just like to start by saying this is a very abrupt thing for me. I did not plan on speaking tonight. But anyways, Walter Paxton is originally from Indiana, where he met the love of his life, Barbara, whom he married in 1964. He graduated from Purdue University with a bachelor's in agriculture education. In 1971, he received his master's degree from St. Francis College. From 1966 to 1971, he taught vocational agriculture in Indiana and was a 4-H advisor. From 1971 to 1973, he took a position as the general manager for Woodburn Equity in Indiana. In 1973, he and Barb moved to Harrod, and he took a job for elevator services and storage in Beaver Dam. He retired as VP of Sales and Sales Manager after 42 years of service in 2015. Over the course of 16 years, Walter and Barb adopted and raised 5 children and fostered 19 other children. He was a member of the Allen County Educational Service Center for 17 years. He has been a longtime member of Zion Lutheran Church and a support committee chairman. He is a trustee and vice president of the Ohio Agriculture Business Association Education Trust Fund. Walter grew up farming and raising livestock. Locally, he is a member and past president of the Allen County Sheep Association and advisor and local 4-H advisor for Allen East, ewes, and rams. Walter has raised sheep on his farm for over 30 years. His love for sheep and sharing this passion shows. His children showed sheep at 4-H, and he helps his grandchildren and family friends show. He holds a yearly 4-H meeting at his home where they practice sheep shearing skills. Walt is retired, and you will find him and Barb in church on Sunday, and then supporting his grandchildren in their sports, wrestling, football, track, cheerleading, or soccer. Walt is one of the funniest and nicest people who is always willing to go the extra mile to help whenever needed. But on a personal note, I would like to state that out of these 17 grandchildren he has, I'm the favorite. There's also not a person that he doesn't know. He does not know a stranger at all. Anytime I would go anywhere with him, he's like, oh, hey, so-and-so, and we're just like, you know, it's my grandkids. And so anyways, he never doesn't know someone. He's also extremely supportive. So those of you that know him know that he loves and adores and is obsessed with Purdue University. And I graduated from Ohio State, which didn't really line up with the family values. But he still wears his Ohio State shirt occasionally and would come support me at my softball games and things like that. So anyways, yeah, that's my grandpa Walt. And congratulations for getting inducted. We're all very proud of you. So yeah.
Thank you, Addison. Yeah, she did graduate from Ohio State. It was tough at times when supporting Purdue, of course. I was thinking back about how did I get involved in so many things. And when I was in high school, my favorite subject was agriculture. As it says, I grew up in a small farm in Indiana, and my father was a township trustee, he was on the hospital board, he was into most everything, and I think I got that from him. But my favorite teacher was my agriculture teacher. And my dad often said that FFA stands for Father Farms Alone, because I was always with the ag teacher going somewhere. And as a part of that, I became a state FFA officer in Indiana. I was fortunate to be on a national champion soils judging team out in Oklahoma City when I was in high school. And at Purdue, I was fortunate enough to be on a collegiate champion vegetable judging team. So those are some of the activities I was in. One of my big disappointments when I was on the school board was voting to discontinue the ag program at Allen East. At that time, there was very little support for the program. We were having a lot of problems with the teacher and the facility, and I was one of the guys that voted to get rid of the program. A couple of years ago, I was really excited when Mr. Rentschler told me that they were starting a new VOAG program at Allen East. And my understanding is that it's been going now for a couple of years and it's starting to be very successful, and I'm really excited about that, being a former vocational agriculture teacher. I once was listening to a speech that Green Bay Packers coach Vince Lombardi had made, and he said there was 3 things that were very important in life as he was telling his team before they went out for a big game. He said it's family, it's your religion, and the Green Bay Packers. And I was thinking about this as I was getting this award, and certainly I have quite a few of my family here this evening. My wife of 57 years. We have 5 children that have all graduated from Allen East and 1 grandchild. I think right now we have 8 grandchildren attending Allen East. So needless to say, we attend a lot of activities. So family has been very important to me, and I thank them for the time that they gave me to do the things that I've been able to do. And faith, when we moved to Allen County, Ohio, from Allen County, Indiana, we wondered where were the kids going to school? They were going to go to a place called Allen East. Well, we were moving from East Allen County, Ohio to Allen East. And we searched around for a church, and we found a Lutheran church in Lafayette that we wanted to attend so the children would be able to go to church, hopefully with some of their friends. And over the years, God has given me good health and a lot of opportunities in Allen East area. And last but not least, Allen East, I get to go to a lot of activities, and so go Allen East. Thank you.
Sorry, I took a sit-down break. Next, I'm going to have Levi Hoy come up, and he will do the next introduction.
Good evening, everyone. As she mentioned, my name is Levi Hoy, and I'm honored to be able to introduce Brian tonight. I am one of Brian's son-in-laws. I married his first daughter, so I'm glad that he's allowed me to speak on his behalf. But Brian Weingarten is a 1987 graduate of Allen East Local School. He entered public service in 1990 as an Allen County Sheriff's Deputy. He constantly worked to better himself by getting involved in other aspects of the department. From 1990 to 2006, he was a member of the SWAT team. Brian was promoted to sergeant in 2000, lieutenant in 2008, lieutenant of administrative services in 2014, and then chief deputy in 2017, a position he maintained until his retirement in 2020. As a chief deputy, he was second in command and served as acting sheriff at times. He was a member of the Allen East Local School Board from 2006 to 2013. Brian was a board member of the Lima First Assembly of God from 2015 to 2017. After retirement, he wanted to continue serving the community and was appointed Allen County Commissioner in December of 2020, and is still serving as a commissioner. Over the years, Brian volunteered his time coaching Little League Baseball and varsity softball. He has touched many lives throughout his career and still has a desire to serve the community. And once again, I'm honored to introduce Brian Weingarten tonight.
Thank you, Levi, for that. And I guess a little nervous, more nervous than I thought I'd be. But special thanks to the committee for their continued hard work and commitment to put on this program tonight. And congratulations to all the other inductees. So, as I said, when I was in high school, I always thought I wanted to be a state highway patrolman. So I did try to follow up with that after graduation. That didn't work out so well. So I had an opportunity to go to the sheriff's office, and I accepted that position. And as I said in the program, moved my way up through the ranks to become a chief deputy. One of the more memorable times I spent was being on the SWAT team. Ran into a lot of unfortunate situations and had to deal with a lot of negative incidents. So, you know, one thing I've tried to instill over the years is a couple things when I run into people. I try to tell them just because you made a mistake doesn't keep you from being better in the future. So always tell them that don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution. And I've tried to live my life that as well, and try to tell them that you can't control your past, what you did, but you do control your future. So I try to talk that, and hopefully along the way, I've made an impact on someone's life through those sayings. So, you know, at some point in life, you start reflecting, and you try to think of someone that's inspired you over your lives. And I guess I'm at that point where obviously it's your parents, and unfortunately my mom's passed, but my dad is still with us, and you know, they've instilled that in me to try to get involved in the community and just do the best you can. So that's what I've tried. My family's here tonight, and my wife Brenda, my best friend, is here. I'd like to introduce Levi and Morgan and their daughters, Elliot and Sutton, and my other daughter, Madison, and her husband Eric, and their son Nash. So it's nothing like being a grandpa, I can tell you that. So a lot of you know that as well. So as I said, I took a position in the commissioner's office, be almost a year in December already. So that was, the commissioner was there, he retired. So I accepted the position, and it'll be up for re-election next year. So don't know if it's appropriate or the right time, but vote for me next year. And you start looking at influences through your life. I reflect back to high school, and one of the people, and he's here tonight, one of the people that influenced me was my high school football coach. So, you know, I think you learned a lot from being on the field and leadership and so on. So, and it's still hard for me to call you by your first name, so thank you, Mr. Goodwin. So, I guess I'll leave you with this. Everyone leaves a legacy in life. I guess it's up to us to determine whether it's a positive or negative legacy. So, thank you.
Next, we're going to have Luann Laze come up and talk about our next inductee for you.
Good evening. My name is Luann Laze. As a teacher, there are always some students who make a lasting impression on you. One never forgets them, and you know through experience this student's going to be very successful one day. Shannon Brown is such a student. When I had Shannon in class, I never in my career met a student who could talk as fast as she could. I can remember on many occasions I would ask her to slow down and repeat it for the rest of the world. Shannon would slow down a bit, but she was always driven to push on. Her motivation, drive, and tenacity would be remarkable throughout her years at Allen East. Always driven, but always very kind. Always motivated, but always had time to think of others. A very unique quality for a young high school student. During her time in high school, she participated in a variety of extracurricular activities. Cheerleading, choir, show ensembles, solos, District 3 chorus, band ensembles, senior class officer, honor society, Mustanger staff, French club, National English Merit Award, Who's Who in Music, and prom committee. She was very involved. She was driven to succeed and would graduate from the class in 1986, where she would embark on her life's journey. I had a very special bond with the class of '86, And there's those students whose paths would cross mine years later, and Shannon would be one of those students. After graduation, she would fill in at her mom's flower shop, Carol's Lane Florist, doing the bookkeeping until her mom found someone. In 1992, Shannon would enroll at the Ohio State University Lima Branch campus and would graduate in 3 years and 1 quarter with a BS/BA in business with a focus on accounting. Graduating third in the College of Business with a 3.9 GPA. She would be a member of the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society and the Gold Key Honor Society. She would also become a certified public accountant. As one might expect, her bookkeeping job would evolve and she would harness her floral designing creativity and take the helm of the Carol's Lane Florist Shop upon her mother's retirement. Our paths would cross during this time. I would need help in my concession business and Shannon agreed to come and help. This help has continued over the last 25 years and as recently as 3 weeks ago. Over the next 25 years, I would help her during the holidays at the shop, where I've had the privilege of witnessing her transformation. Shannon, that fast-talking student, has become this remarkable businesswoman. Her innovative thinking has propelled her businesses forward. Her savvy business sense has led her to move her businesses and capitalize on the business's extra space. With that, Brown Rentals would be born. Over the last 10 years, that business has grown by purchasing and renovating houses for rentals for college students. Much of the renovation was done by Shannon. No job was ever too big for her to tackle. Only Shannon would be instinctively placing delicate orchids in a spectacular arrangement in one hand while using a chainsaw to remove a deck at one of her rentals in the other. That I can do it attitude, fast-talking high school student gets it done each and every day. As a 42-year member of the County Line Church, she has served on its board and was a praise and worship team leader for the last 11 years. She has received the Hardin County Chamber and Alliance Business Betterment Award and is the National Federation of Independent Businesses member. She is also a member of the Ada Chamber of Commerce, Society of American Florists, and maintains her licensure as a certified public accountant. None of what I've mentioned about her would be possible without the strong role models whose standards, ethics, and morals are exemplary. None would be possible without her unwavering family support. Her parents, Terry and Carol Swaney, her sister and her husband, Shelley and Jeff Krieger, Shannon's husband Steve, and their son Asher. None of this would be possible without you by their side. We're gathered here tonight to honor those who, by example, pave a path for future generations so that they can follow that path. Future generations witness through hard work and dedication that they too can achieve any goal they set for themselves. Shannon's strong character, strong faith, and belief that with God's divine guidance all things are possible have molded this remarkable student into a very successful businesswoman. Her strength of character, integrity, and work ethic are evident in all that she has ever done. Her remarkable character is a role model young people need to aspire. It's my honor tonight to introduce to you my former student, my good friend, and a 2021 Allen East Hall of Fame inductee, Shannon Brown.
Everybody who had a part in this evening. It's been wonderful and we appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work. Everything looks great, but there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes, so thank you for all that. I would also like to thank Luann after she was so sweet and everything she said. I have some stories to share about her as well. In high school or in general, there are teachers who spur you to go beyond your comfort zone. And for those of you who attended Allen East and perhaps had to write a term paper would understand the challenges that that brought. 10-page, double-spaced, 1-inch margins checked with a ruler by said teacher. We like to harass her about that, but honestly, it prepared us for college, and more importantly, it prepared us for life because it taught us that we can do hard things. It's okay. I'd also like to thank you for the nomination. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here this evening. I would like to thank my parents because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be anywhere this evening. My parents always told me that you can do anything you want to do, you just got to put your mind to it. And there have been many times when that has really played a part in my life, and it's like, okay, I can do this, you just got to kind of push through. They've taught me to do hard things. They also taught me honor and integrity, good work ethic, things that are important in life, not just by telling me that, but leading by example. So thank you to you. I would also like to thank my husband, Steve, and my son, Asher. They're so supportive of everything that I do. They help me physically, they help me with moral support, everything. I'd also like to thank my family, Jeff, Shelley, Alex, Kevin, Levi. Thank you. Sandy also. I have an incredible, supportive family that has always been there for me, and I'm so grateful and blessed for that. They've helped me in both the flower shop and the rentals, and some of them have been fortunate enough to do both. Sandy, she's been my right-hand man for 40 years, so thank you for all your help and support. More importantly, I would like to thank God. The Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and I've had to draw on that many times in my life, again, knowing that with God, everything's possible. I also want to say that the Bible also says to seek wise counsel, and these two tables right here are my wise counsel, so thank you. My dad always says if you love your job, you never have to work a day in your life, and I'm not sure I agree with that 100% because there are days, but I am so blessed and so grateful that I've been able to do something that I love every day, and I don't feel worthy to get an award for being able to do something I love every day, but I am so humbled and honored to receive this award, and I am truly thankful. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Next up, I'm going to invite Tim Whitehead to come forward. Oh, he had to leave? Okay. Do you want me to do this, or Joel, do you want to do it? I guess I will invite Joel Harris to come up. He is Jennifer Whitehead's father.
Good evening. Tonight I have the honor of introducing my daughter, Jennifer Whitehead, and this honor for Jen is something that's been coming for years. She really worked hard to get to where she is now, and there's been so many things that have been in her way before she could get here, and now she's to where she wants to be in her career and her life, and I couldn't be more proud of Jen. Jennifer Whitehead, MD, is a 2004 graduate and valedictorian of Allen East Local School. In high school, she was a member of the Flag Corps and an active 4-H member. Jennifer's aspiration was to become a pediatrician. After high school, she attended Ohio Northern University studying biology. The last quarter of her senior year at ONU, she lost her mother in an accident. She persevered through this tragedy and graduated with her biology degree. She was then accepted into the University of Toledo College of Medicine. At that time, she took her master's degree before she went into the medical school, so she spent an extra year working on that. In 2008, she married Tim Whitehead, a 2003 Allen East graduate. And during her second year at UT, they became parents to a daughter, Cambria. It kind of put another little dented thing. She had to sit out a semester as Cambria took up quite a bit of time and energy, but then she was able to catch back up with her class and graduate from medical school. She and Tim worked together to stay on course and raise their daughter. While she attended med school, he worked full-time as a surgical tech at St. Charles Hospital in Toledo. After graduation from medical school, Jen went into residency in the pediatric specialty at the University of Toledo Medical Center. And after 3 years of completing her residency in Toledo, she applied and was accepted into a position with Pediatrics of Lima, fulfilling her role of becoming a general pediatrician. They moved back to Lima and now have 11-year-old Cambria and a 1-year-old son, Harrison, who's another handful for Jen. Jen's story of perseverance through life struggles gives hope and encouragement to those who are actively pursuing their dreams. I'd like to introduce my daughter, Jennifer Whitehead.
So I didn't realize the speeches were going to be so involved tonight. But I guess I'll start with high school. So I started high school knowing that I was going to go into the medical field. That was always my dream and my passion. So I did every math and science that I could, including being in calculus my senior year with a total of 4 students. That was super awesome. But that was just the first step in my long journey. So after high school, went to Ohio Northern University, was active in a sorority there, Alpha Xi Delta, and graduated with my biology degree. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it into medical school the first round, so ended up doing my master's at the University of Toledo. So it's nice to have those extra numbers, or extra letters behind my name as well. So I have a master's in science and biomedical sciences. After that, I was accepted into medical school, so first step in perseverance. Went through the first year, no problem. Tim and I were married before we went to I went to med school, so it was nice to have my name changed before I had all of my licenses. It's very difficult to do a name change as a doctor. And then I had just started my second year, made it 2 days into classes, and then we had our wonderful daughter. So that was fun, going to med school and raising a daughter at the same time. We used our resources in the community, and being only an hour or so away from our families, we used them a lot as well. So we're still using our community wisely. And so, like my dad did mention, it did make my med school a little bit longer, but you know, in the long scheme of things, I'm gonna be a doctor for the rest of my life, so why not add another year? So in 2014, I graduated medical school, and I was accepted into the University of Toledo pediatric residency, because going into medical school, I also knew that I always wanted to work with kids. So it's been my lifelong goal for that. So every rotation that I took in med school just solidified that I would rather be working with children. After 3 years of doing residency, I finally was able to be a practicing physician. I was the attending. It's been awesome. So I've always loved this community. It's a great place to grow up. I've had so much love and support through my career that I couldn't think of a better place to come back to start my practice. So I had been in talks with the pediatrics of Lima during med school and mostly through residency. So they and I were happy to come to a mutual decision so I could work here in town. And it's been great seeing people that I know in the community. I see quite a few of the Alaniz children in my practice, and all of the other schools in the surrounding area as well. And it's just been awesome to come back and serve the community that has meant so much to me. So I thank you for all of your love and support, and it is a privilege and an honor to serve this community. Thank you.
Next we have Jeff Helser to come forward.
Hello, I'll be introducing Greg Helser, my little brother. Greg is very smart, very good in math and statistics. But back in the day, he was just an average kid in the Alaniz community. He was average in track and field, average in milking cows, average in band, baling hay, very average in football. Thank you, Coach Goodwin, for doing the best you could with him. He was terrible at driving a tractor and decent at 4-H. But now he was great in math and statistics. When I first heard that he was nominated and selected to be in the Alaniz Hall of Fame, my first thought was, man, Alaniz standards, maybe they're not where they should be. But then I read his profile, and I realized, okay, maybe he is deserving. I did not write his profile. Speaking of his profile, I understand that these were written a year to several years ago, and since then, he doesn't live in Dublin anymore. He's recently moved to the Alaniz community. He has a daughter in high school. Plus, his 3 kids has multiplied to 4. And so now I'd like to introduce Abby's dad, his 4th child, Greg Helser.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for giving me a better speech than I am going to. I think Jeff's he's still mad that I beat him out in the dairy showmanship in 1984. I think I'm a lot like Shannon Brown, that I feel like I'm getting an award because I'm doing something that I love doing. I've been working at Grange Insurance for 23 years now. I hope they'll keep me on for another 23 more. I'll work there as long as they'll let me. And I'm an actuary. So I want to see a show of hands. How many of you have heard of an actuary? Okay, there's a good number of hands. How many of you know what an actuary does? Raise it really high. Okay, there's still some that do know that. But for those of you who don't know, an actuary, this is my definition, so you might want to look it up yourself, but it's a person who studies and quantifies risk. Sounds really exciting, doesn't it? And there's lots of different types of actuaries, but I'm the kind of actuary who helps insurance companies to predict who's more likely to be in an auto accident or whose house is more likely to burn down. So that's the kind of fun stuff that I get to do every day. Some of the other fun things I get to do, I help out with the University of Toledo actuarial program. I've been giving them some speeches like once a year, some presentations, And this semester I actually get to help out with a class, so I meet with them on a weekly basis. And that's been really fun. I like to, it's nice to talk to the young people and give them a little bit of advice here and there. And so some of the advice that I give them is, being an actuary it's very difficult to become a fully accredited actuary. You have to pass a whole bunch of tests. I don't even know how many tests there are anymore because they keep changing the curriculum. On average, it takes people about 8 years to get through all of their tests. Now, some people, they study really hard and they go quicker. I once worked with a lady who passed all of her exams in 3.5 years. For me, it took 17 years. So that's the other thing I like to tell the students is get used to failure, because these tests are tough and it's okay if you fail. I failed more of these exams than I've passed, so I guess sticking with it is another piece of advice that I give them. There's one exam that I think I failed 4 times before I finally passed it, and still at the end of it I get to be an actuary. Another piece of advice that I give the students, and I didn't bring any notes so I can't remember what I was going to say next, but let's see. Well, I guess I'll wrap it up then. Let's make it quick, short, and quick. I want to thank a few people. First of all, I want to thank my sister Sarah for nominating me, and thanks Jeff for the introduction. I want to thank the committee for all the work that they put into this. This has been a really nice evening. And I really want to thank my mom and dad, who, they're 2 of the hardest working people I know. And I think if whatever work ethic I have, I definitely got it from them. And last, I want to thank God because, like I said at the beginning, I get to do something that I love doing every day. Oh, and that is the last piece of advice I give to my students. I say, if you can find something that you love doing, do that. And if you get paid for it, then that's even better. So, thank you, everyone.
So I have the pleasure of introducing our next inductee, and I know that she thinks that she's getting inducted because her mom is the committee chairperson, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. It was actually my idea to nominate Amanda, but before I read my information, I'm going to read a nomination that we got from her friend Megan Benedetti. She couldn't be with us. She lives in California. She's also a nurse. But this is what she has to say about Amanda. Over the last 14 years since Amanda graduated from Mountain East, I have been lucky enough to call her my best friend. It has been a privilege to watch Amanda become the incredible nurse, wife, and mom that she is today. Amanda is known for not liking the spotlight. She actually hates the spotlight. When she was selected for this introduction, she did not even mention it to me, and we talk every day. That speaks volume for the type of person Amanda is, never searching for recognition or attention to be on her. I was so happy when Amanda's mom, Carla, reached out to me asking if I would come and introduce Amanda. I am so grateful that she has been chosen. When Amanda was presented with challenges in her life, she is the last person you will ever hear complain or ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, she sets her own needs aside and continues to care for those around her. When Amanda was diagnosed with breast cancer, she continued to work through the radiation and chemotherapy full-time in the ICU, all while still caring and providing for her family. When many nurses were walking away from their jobs during the pandemic, Amanda doubled down and committed and volunteered to work in the COVID unit at the hospital. Amanda is the definition of selflessness. She is consistently there for anyone in need and truly has a heart of gold. We are all better for knowing her. I am actually the person that nominated Amanda because at that point in time I was still at the hospital, and I was the person that was in charge of getting the COVID unit set up. So we were spending many a day and many a time getting the COVID unit set up and getting our spacesuits ready and hanging the signage and taping off hallways, and we weren't exactly sure what we were getting in for. And I will never forget when the CEO sent out an email and he said, make sure your affairs are in order. You know, we don't know what we're walking into. And then we had to find people to staff the COVID unit. And my good friend Kim was in charge of the unit, and she called me and I said, how many people do you have? And she said, well, I have a couple nurses that have volunteered. And I said, let me guess, Amanda is one of those. And she said, yes, how'd you know? And I said, because that's how Amanda is. She's always been like that. So, as many of you probably know now, but Amanda fought breast cancer when she was only 29 years old and did it with grace and dignity and worked the entire time, taking care of others. So when she probably needed taken care of, there she was in the ICU, no hair, taking care of other people's and feeling like crap, I'm sure, but taking care of patients who were beating up on her as well. And then to go in and face something that we weren't quite sure about with such dignity and grace and bravery to, you know, go into this COVID unit volunteering, knowing that she had little ones at home, she had just fought for her life, and now she potentially was putting her life in danger again, says a lot about who she is. So, Amanda, congratulations.
So Chad's right, I don't like the spotlight, and it's been a while since I've spoken in front of a crowd, so bear with me. It was my senior year in high school, and I thought, I better decide what I want to do with the rest of my life. I always thought I'd be a physical therapist. I'm sure many of you know Sue Sheehan. I knew her as a child and saw how successful she was. But once high school was kind of winding down, I wasn't looking forward to about 6 more years of college, and so I thought, well, let me look at nursing. And I took a college visit to the University of Toledo, and I fell in love with the campus, so I applied, got accepted. I don't think my mom was too happy that I was leaving town and not going to the branch, and but I thought those 4.5 years were the best years of my life. But really the past 7 years have been being married to my husband, Kellen, who's back there, and having my daughter Reagan and my other daughter Carmen. I started my nursing career at Toledo Hospital, where I worked in their coronary care unit, just shy of a couple years. And the reason that I left there is I met Kellen and was driving back and forth. He had a house down at Indian Lake, and I thought, well, this is silly. Why don't I just apply for a job in Lima and be closer? So I applied for a job at Lima Memorial, and I got accepted for the position in ICU. And Kellen had also got accepted for a position at Honda out in Greensburg, Indiana. And I said, well, I can get a job anywhere. So we moved to Indiana, and I took a position at a hospital in downtown Indianapolis, which was a huge culture shock for me. Nobody spoke English. They had in-house translators, and it was an eye-opening experience to things I've never been around. And we were there for about 8 months, and the building I was in was about 100 years old, and they had been working on a new facility, But what did me in is I came home and I said, I'm sick of the cockroaches. I'm going to Lima. You can stay here if you want. And not too much long after that, I applied again to Lima Memorial, got the position, and I've been working there in the intensive care unit since 2014. I knew that I always wanted to work in critical care, but I thought I would advance my career to go to CRNA school. In 2011, my grandpa was in an accident, and I got to watch the ICU nurses take such wonderful care of him. And in the 11 or so days that he was in the hospital, I just decided I want to be like those nurses. So here I am, and I thank my mom and Chad and everyone else who helped put this on. I have the whole rest of my career ahead of me, so I definitely did not feel worthy of this, but thank you very much.
It's my privilege tonight to introduce you to Bradley Smith. Brad Smith was a 3-sport letter winner in football, basketball, and track. During his football career, he would run for over 1,000 yards. He would qualify for the state track meet his junior year in the 800-meter run, and again his senior year in the 800-meter run and the 1,600-meter relay. That relay team would place 6th in the state of Ohio from Allen East. That's quite an impressive start to your life's journey, but for Brad, there was more to come. I would be Brad's English teacher for more years than he might have liked, as well as one of his track coaches during his high school career. He was quietly driven in academics as well as athletics. It was apparent to me high school had only scratched the surface of Brad's potential. Brad was not just an outstanding athlete, he was destined to do something with his life that would materialize through his life's journey. Brad's journey would not take him down a conventional career path. He would graduate from high school in 1984, where he would be employed to install heating and air conditioning units until 1992. At that point, he would over the next 2 years become an insurance and investment salesperson. In 1993, he would begin a line career with AccuBuilt, where he started as a general assembler. His goal at that point was to become president of AccuBuilt in 20 years. Brad would attend Bluffton College and receive a degree in organizational management in 2003. He would lead AccuBuilt to a 50% increase in revenue during his time as their plant manager. In 2004, Brad would begin work on his MBA from Bluffton University. He would graduate in 2006 and become the operations director for AccuBuilt. This was a very impressive rise to the top, but Brad would not be done. He was willing to do what was necessary to improve his career path. Brad, always up for a challenge, decided to apply to the Lima-Allen County Leadership Program. Upon completion, he would begin to investigate his business options and reevaluate his career path. He would take a job at General Dynamics as a section manager, where he was responsible for 7 teams and 260 production employees. However, Brad, still searching, would leave General Dynamics and return to investment sales. In 2008, he would begin a new endeavor, Mulligan Mailboxes LLC, where he would manufacture, market, and sell sports mailboxes. He would develop his business plan, review it with lawyers, accountants, and bankers, and so it would begin. Brad set up at trade shows, in Columbus, Orlando, Myrtle Beach, and Beijing, China. In 2009, Lexus commissioned him to use his golf ball mailbox concept on a Lexus LS460L. Brad dimpled this car's entire body to look like a golf ball skin, and this car was on display at the 2009 U.S. Men's, Women's, Senior Open Golf Tournaments. Even though this business had international connections with national fame, Brad was still searching. He turned to something that has been in his family for over 100 years, the specialty vehicle business. Lima Commercial Coach was born. Hearses were always made from car bodies, but because of limited space and other loading and unloading difficulties, Brad came up with a new concept. Why not use a truck chassis? No one had thought of changing the chassis. So Brad again developed a business plan and began to market his idea to find financial backing. He was successful and in 2009 launched his business. Again, developing a business concept from the ground up is simply impressive, but it doesn't come as a surprise to me. In business, it's important to make decisions to change course, and Brad would again shift course and take a position as operation manager of Eagle Coach in Cincinnati, using his expertise making hearses and limousines. In 2013, when his daughter was in high school, he felt it was necessary to be back in the area and return to AccuBuilt as a sales rep. However, with Brad's expertise and knowledge of the industry, he would be promoted to operations director, and then he became president of that company, where he started as a line worker 22 and a half years before. That's just impressive. When AccuBuilt was purchased, Brad would take his expertise to Crown Industries. Another career move has recently presented itself when a former boss encouraged Brad to look at yet another opportunity. He's currently employed as manufacturing manager at East End Welding, who is a national leader in heavy metal manufacturing. During all this time, Brad had time to volunteer at St. Rita's and also at the Worth Center. He's still running after all those years, except now he does it at Planet Fitness. He's interested in running for mayor of Lima, as well as being a commencement speaker for an Allen East graduation. None of this would be possible without the support of his family. His parents, Jerry and Deanna Smith, his sister Amy, his niece Sophie, and his wife Mandy. Your love and support through the years clearly has helped Brad to achieve all of his goals. Hall of Fame inductees need to provide a standard for future generations that future generations can emulate. Brad exemplifies the entrepreneurial spirit and is a person who has always been willing to think outside the box, motivating himself and exposing himself to all the possibilities. Setting goals and continually working towards those goals is essential. Brad is the perfect example. Sometimes the road to success has many bumps and turns along the way, and it involves learning how to successfully navigate all those challenges. Changing, rethinking, and self-evaluation are all part of that process, and many people can't even dream of the possibility of changing their course. Brad could, did, and does. He has set the bar high, but it is attainable through hard work and perseverance. It's my honor tonight to introduce to you my former student, Bradley Smith.
That's a really long walk. From the words of Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. Good evening. I want to first start with my sincere thanks to the people that made all of this possible. Luann Lousy, Dee and Joe Smith, Amy Smith, and Mandy, my wife. Allen East School, and the Hall of Fame Committee. Luann, Amy, and Mandy have been my biggest cheerleaders. Luann has been cheering me on since my freshman or sophomore year, I can't remember. She's still cheering me on tonight. My sister has always been a huge supporter in anything that I do, always willing to take a call late at night to hear about my next adventure. And my wife for being there and willing to support me in whatever I do. I think in the last 6 years I've had 5 or 6 different jobs. And lastly, my parents. I cannot remember one sporting activity that they have missed. And of course, they're here again tonight. Allen East Schools, and specifically Allen East Sports, for installing in me a great work ethic. Sports at Allen East showed me that it takes hard work to be successful. And finally, I want to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for considering for me for this honor. When looking back to the year of 1984, the year I graduated, all I can say is, wow, I made a lot of mistakes. My grandfather owned a lawnmower repair business I worked at in the summers from the time I was 10 until I graduated. Marvin Miller was his name. And for those who don't know him, he owned the gas station in Herod before Tony Blake, before Butch Schreiber. It was Marvin Miller. Marvin actually sold the gas station to Butch Schreiber. But anyhow, he moved to a place on Harding Highway, and my mom dropped me off on her way to work at Kmart. I remember my grandfather sitting me down my senior year, and he said he wanted to give me the business. I said, Grandpa, I'm going to college. I'm going to own my own business, and I'm going to make a lot of money. Little did I know, 30 years later, local mower and lawnmower repair shops are charging $75 to $85 an hour. It's a lot more than I'm making today. When I graduated, I started at Ohio State. And after just 1 year, I was dismissed. My GPA was 0.81. For many of you that knew me back then would understand this, that most nights my BAC was higher than my GPA, blood alcohol content. I would have never imagined that 20 years later I would graduate with a degree and then go on and finish my master's. And it's been 17 years since I had a drink. Imagine that. It's raining really hard outside. I made a lot of mistakes, but there's a positive side to all this. I have had a lot of opportunities to be part of some really successful companies. Companies that build limos, hearses, wheelchair vans, army tanks, lift trucks. And now I'm working for a company near Akron that makes train cabs. I was able to start several businesses along the way. I learned how to make scented candles. Designed and marketed a golf ball mailbox. built hearses, as Luann said, off of Chevy Silverado trucks. If you Google dimpled Lexus, you can see the Lexus that we made look like a golf ball. Now, not only do I work in Akron, at East End Welding, I also own a mobile home park in Cridersville, and I have my own construction business where I install replacement windows and doors in my spare time. So I'd like to close with some things that I've learned, and most of the people up here said the same thing. It's okay to make mistakes. And really, to be successful, you gotta make a lot of them. Take time to reflect, look in the mirror, ask if I'm doing what's good for me, or am I doing what's best for me and my family? Always be honest, treat people with respect. Never, never, never give up on your dreams. Set short-term and long-term goals and dream big. If you're sharing your dreams with your best friend and he or she doesn't fall on the ground laughing hysterically in disbelief, your dreams are just not big enough. Thank you.
Wow, Brad's tall. Thank you all so much. Before we close, in listening to a few of you talk, obviously I did not play football for Bill Goodwin, but I knew Bill Goodwin from church and Judy and their kids, and just hearing the impact that you've had on kids when they're in school that is carried through to this point in their life speaks volumes about the person that you are. And I'm so glad that you're hanging out there on that wall of fame. I would talk to Mr. Goodwin at church, but at school he had this sign outside the office. Do you remember this? The buck stops here. I was scared of the high school office, and it wasn't until I was a senior in high school and had to call home that I actually went in there on tippy toes and asked Rose if Mr. Goodwin was out of the office so I could use the But anyways, thank you all so very much. Thank you to the inductees. Wonderful speeches, great hearing about your journeys in life. Thank you to the nominators for nominating these awesome people. It will be open for 2026 at some point this week. Please, if you have anyone in mind that you want to nominate, go ahead and get started now. You have until August 31st at midnight, 2026. Chad, do you have anything? Okay, thank you again. Have a safe trip home, and thank you for sharing your evening with us.